let's break down for our viewers what exactly happened and what this initial report at the moment is pointing towards. This is the Dreamliner crash. The initial report is revealing both the engines shut down within seconds after takeoff. This is something which is very, very scary. The RAT has been deployed, indicating complete power loss. Pilots deny initiating the fuel cutoff switches. In fact, from what we are understanding, both the pilots even had a conversation. Engines tried to reignite but failed as it was too late. The crash took place just barely 32 seconds after the liftoff took off. Thrust levers found idle. Data shows that there was no thrust at all. There is no bird strike that we are looking at the moment, no bad weather condition. That's something that the initial report at the moment is pointing towards. The fuel tested is clean. There is no contamination found in the fuel. The crew was experienced, it was medically fit, and it was well rested. Possible fuel switch fault not inspected. That is something which at the moment is being investigated, that there is a possibility that the fuel switch, this fault, was not inspected before the plane took off. So this is something that we are now understanding is now coming out. My colleague Amit is still with me. Amit, one of the things, and this is the last point that we are now emphasizing, is the fact that the fuel switch fault is something which was not inspected before the flight took off.
All this angle, as I mentioned, Aishwarya, will have to be investigated further by the AAIB and the foreign experts who have been roped in for this particular issue, as well as the experts from the civil aviation industry and the components, such as, for that matter, as you speak, because we are also pointing out at the fuel switch issue. And that is why OEMs, which is the original equipment manufacturers, they were already roped in by the AAIB and the agencies responsible for the investigation. So what I have been given to understand that at near the Ahmedabad airport, all the wreckage parts that were recovered from BJ Medical College hostel campus, all of that was taken to a spot near Ahmedabad airport, and the wreckage has been reconstructed into AI-171 Boeing Dreamliner craft, and the OEMs, which is the original equipment manufacturers, have been called in. Now, why that has been done is that each of these manufacturers will actually look into the components that they supply for the Boeing Dreamliner, and will check within themselves whether there was some technical fault with their own component, and that will help the agencies to actually identify whether this was a manual issue or a technical glitch or technical problem that led to the disaster. And at times, is it an independent issue whether those fuel switch transitions happened on its own, or whether they were contributing factors for it, other equipments that could have actually contributed, faults in other equipments that could have actually contributed to this particular tragedy that happened. All of that will be investigated by the agencies henceforth. But we need to also relook at the timeline of AI 171. 94 seconds, Shwarya. The craft takes off from Ahmedabad airport. The ATC is informed about it. And then suddenly the pilot and the co-pilot realize there's a transition in the fuel switches, which essentially means, again, breaking it down for our viewers. It is like your car, if you suddenly put off the switch of fuel to cut off, that would mean that your car engine is not getting the fuel that it is required. And instead of acceleration, it will begin accelerating, and in this particular case, it was in the mid-air when that happened. And that's when the pilots started to call Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. It has been announced twice by these pilots to the ATC Ahmedabad, which we had also reported during the crash when I was on the ground, along with India Today's extensive team, reporting on every angle of the crash, the tragedy that unfolded on June 12th. And immediately, I think after 6 seconds of Mayday call, the crash happened. And what happened in between is the craft hitting the trees, then the chimney in the army establishment, and eventually landing on the building of BJ Medical College hostel, killing 241 who were on board, as well as the people on the campus. So as of now, as I also mentioned, Aishwarya, the AIB report is not, holding anyone responsible at this point in time, or suggesting some action against Air India, or for that matter, Boeing in this particular case, because it's a Boeing craft that
Right.
had met that unfortunate tragedy in Ahmedabad. So we'll have to wait for several months from now, because, in all honesty, it takes at least around 8, 9 months for a full-fledged report in cases of this sort. What is fortunate in this case, Ashwarya, what I can certainly point out, is that the black boxes, both the black
No.
boxes, whether it be the one in the front or one in the tail, both of them were in a state that it could be actually decoded easily. The initial analysis process is already over. But I also can tell our viewers at this
Right.
point in time, a special technical equipment was actually flown into India by NTSB in order to download the memory module from the black boxes and begin this analysis of the data. That is why you have much more detailed report that has been put out by the AAIB. Back to you.